It was her memory as Sakita, Pharaoh of the lands of Kham, with her brother. They co-ruled. It plays before the flood and before Babylon, about 5,000 years after Atlantis fell. This is chapter 6. This is the seventh part. Chapter 7. Sorry, I finished this morning Nea's return. They are back from the battle with the Zumas. Chapter 7 is entitled Belshazzardak. 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 2 days later, news was brought to me that Belshazzardak had not been found among the Zuma dead. I sent soldiers to search for him, and they found him 3 days' journey across the high desert towards the sea, hiding in the tent of a herdsman whom he had killed, and he was brought to the royal city. Next day 1,000 people assembled in the hall of audience to hear me give the judgment of Pharaoh upon this follower of Set. When he was brought into my presence, I knew that there was no great one of the darkness, for he did not possess the strong shield of pride with which they challenged the onslaught of the light. For his eyes, heavy-lidded as a crocodile's, were dull with fear. And I pronounced judgment upon him. Belshazzardak, mouthpiece of the gods of Zuma, hear my voice. If you have been a priest of power, even though that power were used in the name of Set, then I should have challenged your will with mine. And if you have conquered, then you would have returned to your country unmolested. If you had been a true priest, you would have been our honored guest, even though our countries were enemies. And you would have returned in peace to your home. If I had found that you were a strong man, worthy of my hatred, then should I have put my condemnation upon you for daring to lead your people in an attempt to desecrate my country. But you have so little knowledge, even of evil, that you have made yourself a weapon in the hands of a princeling of the shadow. I do not prophesy, nor do I condemn, but I tell you the workings of the law. I but tell you what harvest you will gather from the seed you have sown. To add my condemnation to what you have already brought upon yourself, were to drive a thorn into a man's foot when there is a sword twisting in his heart. You have allowed your body to be used by another spirit. If you had 100th part of the knowledge that you claim, you would know that no one who is not evil would use the body of another for his own. If a man plunges his hand into a cauldron of boiling bitumen, then will that hand be crippled and no longer obey his will. The will of one who allows himself to be possessed is so weakened that for many lives thereafter he is born insane. When you are reborn in sleep, you will look down on the prison of your body, to which you must return, knowing that, when you wake, that drooling figure will crawl upon the ground and scream in terror of the hideous shapes that you surrounded. You were a priest, although in name alone, over a great multitude. You should have been a light unto their twilight, but you were a heavy shadow upon their darkness. For this you will experience all that these people suffer because of you. An army of many thousand men trusted you to guide them to victory, but because you were a false priest, your tongue ordered them to their death. When you die, you will return to that moment when you led your host from the pass through the cliffs, and saw not a herd of bulls for sacrifice, but the wheeling chariots of Pharaoh, and, seeing them, knew that you had betrayed your people. Caught in the moment of your betrayal, time will stand still for you, and yet seem endless, between the death of a madman and the birth of an idiot child. 6 days ago the body of your king left on its last journey to your country. Tomorrow, as though you were a true priest, my soldiers shall escort you to the outposts of Sumer. For if you had been a true priest, your people would have needed you to guide them in their tribulation. The news will have gone ahead of you of what befell their army, because they listened to your voice, and you will find a welcome worthy of you. In calm, we do not torture prisoners. And when you are again reborn in Sumer, still may you hear them telling round their fires the story of the humiliation of their smooth oracle, Belshazzardak. Getting his comeuppance. Chapter 8. The safeguarding of the two lands. Twice had Sumer challenged the strength of Atet, and twice had Sumer been driven back from calm, and now Nea and I sat in council with our captain of captains, and with the viziers of Men Atatis, Abidwa, Isa'an, and Nektan, to decide how our boundaries were to be made safe for our children. It is easy to make a decision when it involves only one's own life, but when the lives of many thousands of people will be altered, then it is the yoke of responsibility heavy upon one's shoulders. Though everything that we do changes our future, some actions show their reflection in a day, and others stretch far ahead of us. Before setting forth to climb a high mountain, it is well to think not only of the precipices that must be scaled, but also of the new vistas that can be seen when the summit is reached. With a great army of 200,000 men, Nea could scourge the people of Sumer with a mighty flail, so that as long as memory dwelled in them and in their children of many generations, they would never again assail the might of calm. But what if our armies crowned victory with victory and swept through the land of Sumer as easily as a sword cuts honeycomb? Our boundaries would be thrice increased, yet if we were Pharaoh of Sumer as well as of Calm, would our people be happier when we wore this triple crown? What do our people lack in the two lands? We have enough grain for none to go hungry, and each man has land for his garden. Our vineyards give us wine, and our flax fields our blue lakes among the corn, and our linen weavers know not empty linen and empty looms. What can the land of Sumer give to us? Its grain lands are like oceans to our seas, yet if we owned them, our fields would be fallow, and our people would no longer need to work for their bread, and in their idleness they would find discontent. Only the men who walk the warrior's path are in our armies, but if we had these vast boundaries to keep, then would our ploughmen, artisans, and scribes have to change the patterns of their lives and join the ranks of our fighting men, and they would hear no music in the battle cry, for only they of the scarlet rejoice in the sword. If a man steals a bunch of grapes from your vineyard, by the law of scales, you can take a bunch from his, and so adjust the balance. But one bunch of grapes looks like another, and the one stolen from you may have 90 grapes on it, and the one you steal may have 100, and by taking it you have placed yourself in the debt of another thief. The wise man whose vineyard is raided by a thief will not turn thief himself to right the wrong, for he knows that there is another way in which the scales can be made true. The chief will have to become an honest man to repay the debt that he in the past incurred. But a man who finds his house has been robbed is a fool to set no watchman. The Sumer gateway into Calm is a narrow land between the two waters. So we decreed that 5 days' journey from our northeast boundary there would be built a chain of garrisons set 2 days' march apart, and that our fleet in the narrow sea should be increased to guard our eastern shore. The Minoan fleet is master of the northern sea, and our fleet joins with theirs in its guardianship. Punt has acknowledged us her overlord, and Nakish secures us from the land of gold. When this mighty northeast gate is built, then will our country be tranquil through the years. If we went as conquerors to their land, the people of Zuma would hate us and hate our gods. For though we gave them our justice and our laws, they would see in them the flail and not the crook. But the time may come when the people of Zuma shall hear our voices in the southwest wind. Then will they put to the sword their evil priests and overthrow tyrants who are their kings, for they will have heard that contentment flowers in calm, and they will wish us to be their best overlords. If that day comes, then shall we have won a mighty victory, not by the sword in our hand, but by the sword of our will. Part 8, Chapter 1, Noonday of My Mother. Oh, I think I'll make a new chapter of that.